The night was too quiet, unnaturally quiet, as if the stars themselves were holding their breath. In a forgotten alley behind the old Marwick station, a small gray cat named Ash pressed his trembling body against a rusted trash bin, listening for footsteps he prayed would not return. Ash hadn't always lived in shadows. Once, he belonged to a boy named Liam, who carried him wrapped inside a scarf during winter and whispered, "You're safe with me, always." But always had ended abruptly the day the landlord discovered the cat and threatened to evict the family unless the animal was thrown out. Ash remembered the pleading, the tears, the door slamming, then the cold. He never blamed Liam, even though the memory burned. But as Ash wiped a paw across his face, he didn't realize that someone was watching him from across the alley. Someone whose arrival would change everything, though he, trembling and hungry, could not know that yet. A sudden bang shattered the silence. A drunk man stumbled into the alley, kicking a box aside. Ash froze. The man spotted him. "Vermin," he snarled. The boot came fast. Pain exploded through Ash's ribs as he skidded across the ground with a cry too soft for anyone to hear. Ash tried to run, but his leg buckled beneath him. The man raised his boot again. "Hey, stop!" a voice shouted. A woman sprinted forward, grabbing the man's arm. "He's just a cat. Leave him alone." The man cursed but stumbled away, muttering. Ash blinked up at the woman, a stranger. Yet her eyes were soft with something he barely remembered, kindness. "You poor thing," she whispered, gently lifting him. Ash wanted to resist, but exhaustion won. Her coat smelled like lavender and old books, like safety, something he hadn't felt in so long. She carried him to her small apartment above a bakery. The moment she cleaned his wound, Ash let out a low, involuntary purr, surprising himself. "You're safe now," she murmured. But she didn't know. She couldn't know. That saving Ash would unravel a truth long buried one that would circle back to her in ways neither of them could imagine. Outside, the wind rattled the window. Inside, wrapped in a soft blanket, Ash's eyes slowly closed, unaware that someone else was already searching for him. Someone from his past, someone whose return would shatter the fragile peace he had just found. Ash woke in the middle of the night to the soft hum of the bakery ovens below. The warmth seeped through the wooden floorboards and wrapped around him like a second blanket. For a moment, he forgot the alley. He forgot the pain. He forgot the man who had raised a foot to end his story before it even truly began. But peace never stayed long in Ash's life. The woman he had learned her name was Elara was asleep on the couch, her arm hanging off the side, a book open on her chest. Ash watched her for a long time, his tail curled around himself. She had risked her own safety to save him, a stray nobody else even saw. Why? Humans? Ash didn't trust them. But this one felt different. A faint noise outside snapped him back to alertness. Footsteps. Slow, heavy, intentional. They paused directly below the apartment window. Ash's fur bristled. His wound stabbed with heat. His pupils widened until they swallowed the gold of his eyes. He knew that walk. He knew that rhythm. The shadow that had haunted him wasn't lost, it had found him again. Elara stirred at the sudden movement, rubbing her eyes. "Ash? What's wrong?" she whispered. He didn't know how to explain. He only knew danger was near. He limped to the window, staring down at the figure who stood impossible still. Elara followed his gaze, but just as she reached the glass, the shadow stepped back into darkness and vanished like smoke. A chill crawled up her spine. Elara closed the curtains, unsettled. "Probably just someone passing by," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. Ash pressed against her ankle. She knelt and stroked him gently. "You're shaking," she whispered, but he wasn't cold, He was remembering the alley, the shouting, the rough hands, the betrayal, the moment he learned what humans were truly capable of, and the terrible truth the shadow held. Alara had no idea how close she was to being dragged into that darkness. Later, as Alara slept again, Ash curled at her feet, eyes half open. He wanted to believe he was safe. He wanted to believe this warm little apartment was different from the cold world he had escaped. But safety, he knew, was fragile. And outside, unseen across the street, the shadow had returned, watching the window, breath frosting in the night air, waiting. Because Ash wasn't just a stray, he was a witness. And the man who wanted to destroy him wasn't done. Ash didn't sleep the rest of the night. His body was still, curled tightly at the foot of Alara's bed, but his mind ran wild through the corridors of memory, dark, narrow, cold. The bakery warmth softened the edges of fear, but the shadow outside had ripped open a wound deeper than the one on his paw. He had seen that man's silhouette before. He had heard those footsteps. He had survived them barely. Just before sunrise, Alara stretched and sat up with a groggy smile. "Good morning, Ash." She expected a tiny meow, maybe a purr like the night before. Instead, she found him staring at the window, trembling slightly. "Ash?" Her voice softened. "You're safe, I promise." But some promises she didn't yet understand were too large for her to make. Alara had to open the bakery early. She placed Ash gently on a pillow near the heater. With a blanket he instantly dug his claws into. It smelled like her, like old books and something sweet. "You rest here," she said. "I'll be downstairs if you need me." Ash watched the door close behind her. He wanted to follow. He wanted to stay close. But the wound in his paw reminded him of the man who caused it and of all the fear he had learned to carry. Downstairs, Alara worked the early shift alone. The smell of fresh bread filled the narrow streets. People lined up outside, unaware of the quiet storm building above them. And among those passing faces, a pair of cold, calculating eyes paused. He spotted the apartment window. He spotted the bakery sign. His lip curled. "So, that's where you ran off to, little rat?" Upstairs, Ash felt it. Not heard, not seen, but felt like a cold finger trailing down his spine. Instinct made him hobble toward the window, climbing slowly, painfully, onto the table. He pressed his nose to the glass. There, a shape in the mist. Still, watching. Ash's breath hitched. His past had caught him. Suddenly, the front bakery doorbell jingled. Ash jumped. Alara looked up from the counter. The man walked in. Not drunk this time, not shouting, not stumbling. Sober, cold, calculated. "Morning," Alara said politely. "What can I get for you?" He smiled, the kind of smile that hides teeth. "Just looking," he muttered, but his eyes weren't on the bread. They were on the stairs, on what lived above them. Alara felt unease ripple through her chest, but tried to shake it off. Customers came in all types, she told herself. Still, something about him made her skin crawl. Ash limped back and forth, desperate, his claws tapping the wooden floor. He knew what danger smelled like. He knew what cruelty looked like. And he knew that Alara was now in the middle of it. Because this man wasn't just after him. He wanted to silence the past, erase what Ash had seen. And if Alara got in the way... Ash hissed softly, the first sound he had made since waking. Downstairs, the man took one last long look toward the staircase. "You live alone?" he asked casually. Alara stiffened. "That's a strange question." He smiled again, forced, thin, wrong. "Just making conversation?" Then he turned and walked out. The bell chimed. Silence followed. Alara exhaled shakily. She didn't see the bruise on his knuckles. She didn't see the dried mud matching the alley Ash escaped from. She didn't see the scar Ash had inflicted when he defended himself. But the man saw everything he needed, and he wasn't leaving. He was planning. Upstairs, Ash stared down at him as he walked away. But the man looked back, straight at Ash, directly, coldly, knowingly. A silent message passed through the glass. I found you. Ash's world shrank into fear. He had to protect Alara. He had to warn her. But he was only a cat. And the danger approaching her life was bigger, darker, far more human. Alara closed the bakery early. Something about that man's visit clung to her like a cold fog she couldn't shake off. She climbed the stairs slowly, pressing her hand against the old railing. Ash, sweet boy, where are you? She found him pacing anxiously near the window, tail low, eyes wide, trembling. Ash, what's wrong? He pressed his head desperately against her chest. He had never done that before, and the way he looked back at the window made her heart tighten. Alara sat on the floor with him, stroking his fur gently. You're safe. I'm here. But Ash couldn't relax. He kept lifting his injured paw, stepping forward, meowing sharply, almost like he was trying to tell her something. Then he limped to the door, scratched it, looked back at her. You want me to go downstairs? He meowed again, more urgently. Alara followed him into the bakery. He led her to the back door, the one that opened onto the alley. He pawed it, eyes fixed on the thin line of darkness beneath the frame. Something or someone was out there. Alara swallowed. Is someone watching us? She reached for the lock. Suddenly, a loud bang struck the door from the outside. Alara stumbled back, heart racing. Ash flattened his ears and hissed, fur bristling with terror. Someone tried the handle. The banging stopped. Footsteps retreated down the alley. Alara backed away, chest tight, breath shaking. She grabbed her phone to call the police. No signal. Storm clouds rolled overhead, heavy and growling. Rain started to fall again, drumming on the thin roof. Ash stared at her, his eyes filled with an emotion she never expected from a stray. Regret, as if he believed he had brought the danger here. That night, neither of them slept. Alara kept the lights on. Ash curled tightly against her arm, vibrating with tiny tremors. Every sound, the rain, the pipes, the wind made him jolt awake. Alara, her mind whispered, you should have never taken him in. But her heart whispered louder. He came to you for a reason. Just before dawn, a knock sounded at the front bakery door. Not a slam, not violent, a knock. Alara froze. Ash stiffened, fur rising. She tiptoed to the window and peeked out. A woman stood outside soaked in rain, shaking, clutching something to her chest. A folder. Old. Stuffed with papers. Alara hesitated, then opened the door just enough to speak. Can I help you? The woman's lips trembled. Is there a gray cat here? Ash peered from behind Alara's legs. The woman collapsed into tears. Alara led her inside cautiously. The woman knelt and opened the folder with trembling hands. Photographs spilled out onto the floor. A little boy, a tiny gray kitten curled in his arms. Hospital halls, a medical bracelet. Alara's breath stopped. The woman whispered, that kitten was my son's. He passed away last year. Ash ran away after the funeral. We searched everywhere, every day. Ash stepped closer. The woman continued. But the man who abused him, the man who hurt my son too, wanted to get rid of the kitten. Said the cat was a burden. I tried to protect him, but he stole Ash and dumped him in the alley. Ash's ears dropped. His trembling stopped. He seemed to understand. Alara's heart cracked open. The dangerous man wasn't after Ash because he cared. He wanted to silence everything that reminded him of his crimes. Against the boy, against the family, against Ash and Ash. Ash had run to the only place where someone saw him as more than a burden. Alara gently picked him up. The woman reached for him slowly, lovingly, but Ash buried his face in Alara's chest. He chose her. The woman wiped her eyes. He loves you. My son would be happy he found someone kind. Alara held Ash tighter. What do we do about the man? The woman exhaled shakily. I've already reported him. A detective is following the case. And now that we know where Ash is, they'll protect you too. Ash finally relaxed, melting into Alara's arms. For the first time, the fear in his chest loosened. He wasn't alone. Alara wasn't alone. And the past, the darkness, was finally being dragged into the light.